Hello, welcome to this class on typing. We're doing objective personality typing, which is similar to Myers-Briggs, but expanded. Today we're typing Hamzah Saadah, who is a YouTuber who's pretty young, and he actually also has other social media accounts and millions of followers. But yeah, it's a young dude, and it's good to see, type people of all ages. But yeah, no type accuracy guarantees, but I got a pretty good idea for his type. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So basically, in this episode, we're going to do things just as we previously have done it, where we cover the last episode a little bit and we get into the clips of the person we're typing, try to guess certain coins or certain personality traits, and then we'll have a final guess, narrowing down the type for the person. In this case, it's Hamza. And then we're going to end with what's going to be the next episode in 2 weeks. And yeah, so without further ado, let's continue. Um, Sammy Obeid, we typed him. He's a stand up comedian, pretty good one. Turns out I'm not changing what I think his type is, even though I could see a few different possibilities. I'm seeing that he is probably still an ISTP jumper. I was confused between TINI versus NITI. I think someone else guessed that he might be an INTP. So I guess that is another point for some kind of ITP. Um, but yeah, I'm leaving it as is. And if there are any revisions, I'll let you guys know. So today we're covering Hamza, who is a very young content creator. Not really going to be covering any of his like earlier content because I feel like he's too young. I don't want to get into person's history. But these days he's talking about certain political issues, and we know certain temperament that talks about politics a lot. I have a lot of, for me, it's very uncomfortable. I'll just go out and say it. Like I feel like politics is very NT, and for me, having the NT blast last, it's very difficult for me to talk about politics. That's why you got your Bernie Sanders, who's NT and INTP. You have AOC, who's an INTJ. Um, and yeah, you got a lot of these NT types who are just talking about politics. They're not afraid of it. Um, but yeah, so looking at his original channel from when he was younger, without playing any of these videos, he's doing some very silly content, you know, um, kind of just, he has a lot of views and stuff, like millions of views and subscribers, but he kind of abandoned this channel and he just, decided to talk about something that's more meaningful to him. And yeah, so my first impression, I do need to change that. I need to change the title, but my first impression was Ali Abdaal or Drew. So I do have Dr. Drew down here as a NITI Sleep Blast play. Number two, that's basically what I'm seeing, at least looks like. So Hamza could, in a few years start looking like Ali Abdaal, and then in a few years after that, or several years or decades, it'll start looking like Dr. Drew. But yeah, I'm seeing some kind of NITI. At least that's my first impression bias get out of the way. So that's an INFJ jumper. So yeah. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the interview clips. I've only got two videos today because he's young, early in his career, has doesn't have that much content out there. But there's so much to pull out from these because one of them is with Jill Stein, and the other one is with Sammy Obeid, and yeah, it's pretty good um, to just pull out so much from his personality type in these videos. So the first coin we're going to look at is sleep versus play. We're going to see how he's dealing with content creation. And specifically, we're going to look into kind of how much preparation does he do.
It's on, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a convention where creators go and learn from the best, Mr. Beast and
Oh,
all
wow.
these like huge artists, teach creators what to do. And when I was there, I was wearing my Palestinian necklace, and a few people, would eye at it whenever I'm talking to them, and like, oh, what's that on your? What are you
Yeah, yeah,
wearing?
yeah,
And they'd like
yeah.
they'd give me like an attitude and shit for it. I'm like, bro, like, what are you doing?
Yeah. How old were
So
you when you were at that?
like 17,
Oh,
18.
wow,
Yeah,
wow.
barely like an adult. I'm
Wow.
21, like I'm barely an adult right now. You know?
No. In
So
a few years, bro.
a few
Inshallah.
years,
Yeah, yeah.
inshallah.
Yeah, yeah.
Inshallah. I've definitely felt some racism and discrimination for being Palestinian
Yeah.
way before October 7th and way before even talking about it publicly.
So you'd mentioned it, but you'd never actually done any content on it.
No,
And then
no.
so October 7th
Yeah.
happens. Look, a couple days go by, a couple weeks go by. What's your
Yeah,
what do
so
you do?
so another thing I
Do
used
you
to
condemn
do.
Hamas?
People think I am
Yeah,
Hamas.
yeah, 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 yeah,
They think I'm a part of it. So I
yeah.
don't know. Am I going to condemn myself? But no, basically, by the way, I'm not Hamas. PSA. I would also do other types of content, not just Fortnite. I would do the
Yeah,
content I'm doing right now, where I speak to random people online, but it wasn't Israelis or Zionists. I would
right.
speak to my fans or random people and just make jokes and do my voice impressions that I used to do. And then I figured out a way to integrate what's going on back home in Palestine with my content I do right now.
And what was that? What was the first spark that came to mind?
Well, when October 7th happened,
Yeah.
before that, I was planning on getting back into my content.
Yeah.
I had like 3 months of planning, like ready to go, just ready to post. I still have the
Wow.
videos. I never shared them because, my first video was supposed to go out October 7th.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, my first content video. Like
Whoa.
to get back into the, absorber, coming
Yeah, so
back.
you had been on hiatus for like
Yeah.
almost 2 years.
Yes.
And then you're like, I'm coming back.
Yeah.
The date is set. Mark your calendar.
It was literally October
7th. You
7th.
sure you're not Hamas, bro? You sure
I
you're not?
swear, dude, I swear. I swear to God.
It's kind of
It's-
suspicious, right? With the Fortnite content, it's like, oh, you're just parachuting in all of a sudden.
Yeah, no, I swear, I'm not Hamas. But
You're not a tunneler. You're a tuber. Yeah.
yeah, I was in the tunnels the whole
Tunnels,
time.
tubes,
Like,
like,
yeah, green screen the whole time. I was in the tunnels. Yeah, no, but I always did that type of content where I spoke to people, and then October 7th came around. I was like, you know what? I'm ditching all of this content. It could wait. I don't plan on posting anytime soon.
That's how I feel about my 2023. I was working on all these jokes.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, they're almost
Scrap.
done. And I was like, see you in 2026.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's exactly it. Is that Sammy as well with the sleep, So what happens, a valuable lesson for us play people, is that the sleep above play personality trait allows people to save up a lot of their energy, a lot of their work. They're able to prepare in advance. They have all the things like bottled up, saved up, capturing lightning in a bottle or whatever, but that's not the right analogy. But the point is you save all the work and then you publish all your videos or all your things over the course of 3 months. You have 3 months worth of content saved up. For Sammy, he has 3 months worth of jokes saved up, and but he had to delay it because a major current event or major news event happened, and you have to throw away all your work because it's time to play. It's something in the extroverted world happens that disrupts the sleep. That's what a lot of introverts are trying to avoid, and so they're trying to build up their work. Hopefully, it doesn't get stale. A lot of times, it does get stale, and yeah, word on the street, at least from what Dave was saying, is he's an INTJ, NIFI sleep last play. He saved up a lot of content, and then the problem is that sometimes it gets stale, and then it doesn't get released, or it's not timely, it doesn't match. So that's the kind of OI story of the NI and the sleep. We try to prepare things. I don't. I'm the opposite type, but I'd like to, and it's hard to do that when it really does get disrupted. Um, but yeah, so anyway, it's very sleepy, very NI. But there's going to be more clips to kind of get into that more. In this next clip of the same video, we're going to go over, hey, is this NI or NE? Is Hamza, he's a pretty cool, laid back, double decider guy, possibly observer. Maybe he's an observer or not. We'll see. But then is he an IJ or an EP? Does he Is he a sensing or intuition? These are the things we're going to be looking at here. There's a few things going on in this. So it's going to be for a couple minutes. Let's see, observer versus decider, and then IJ versus EP.
You know, it's not too late.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, the propaganda didn't get to him,
Right,
the
right.
brainwashing. Like all the way, I guess. But
Yeah.
you know, he had a few things wrong when I first met him.
Yeah, yeah, right there.
Nice. Nothing, bro. Like that, bro. Yeah.
Spider.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
You're good.
No, you handled that so brave. You got
That
it
was
off. I was
nicely
like, wow,
done.
that's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
mature. And now,
And then one
fully
spider.
21.
One
Yeah.
spider.
Yeah, fully.
I have to. We'll cut that out.
Of course. We can't show this man's weakness.
No, it's a new TikTok dance.
After the flick, cut it out.
Yeah.
These videos that you've been making, right? We've seen.
Yeah, just a note on that. It's like everyone can act like a cool EP some part of the day, but then, you know, things happen. But actually, EPs can be like this too. Um, but yeah, he ends up having a reaction to some insect or something crawling on his shoulder. But it can also be, you know, demon sensing, you know, not being, well, a lot of people are afraid of insects. It's just a data point.
Seen some of the worst things that people have said,
Uh-huh.
and Chai asked you, has anybody ever said something nice? And you said one guy.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So one person out of the the countless amount of people that I've talked to from Israel has been open to listening to what I have to say. This person has now they watched Tantura, which is the documentary, the Israeli-made documentary, which talks about what happened in the village Tantura in 1948.
Yeah.
How it was massacred,
Yeah.
depopulated, and destroyed.
Yeah.
You know, he watched that film. I recommended it to him the first time I spoke to him.
Yeah.
And he watched it. He watched it all. And he learned about the Nakba. He didn't even know about the Nakba. He
Wow.
learned about the 750,000 Palestinians that were displaced from their homes in hundreds of villages, depopulated and destroyed, thousands of Palestinians killed. He learned about all of that.
They learn about it like the way that we learned about Native Americans in like the 1960s.
Yeah,
They just welcomed
Which is
us
like,
in.
it's like
Yeah.
Squanto came, we had a good Thanksgiving, and that was the end of the story.
Yeah. Or like there were only a few of them. Like,
Yeah.
90% of the land was like empty.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's also something they
And
teach
they were
them.
violent and they
Yeah,
attacked. They
they're
were
like,
savages.
please just name
Yeah.
a football team after us, and we're square. You can have all this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But
football.
Yeah, the
An
rest
Israeli
of it.
football team.
it's crazy. Yeah.
The olive skins.
Yeah,
The
what would that
olive
be
skins.
called? Yeah.
Did you just come
I'm
up with
like,
that?
that's offensive.
Yeah. I'll leave it there with this clip because he's kind of getting into the ST consume, you know, from at least the thing that I'm seeing is that he might have ST consume somewhere in there. Is looking at historical events and then this did you come up with that? I think that that's something that like an EP would not be thrown off by, you know, Sammy coming up with something on the spot. I do think that this is more of an IJ, you know, if he is an observer, he's more leaning on the NI side. You know, he's prepared with his videos, he's prepared with his jokes, his content, everything talks about preparation. Plus, he's super young, so it's going to be very hard for him to, you know, not use his savior functions to get to where he needs to go. So he's using a good amount of the NI. So here in this next video, so I'm only doing 2 videos today, and the second video is about Jill Stein. He gets a chance to interview with her because, you know, they have similar stances on certain political issues. So it's gonna, you know, if you're sensitive to politics, you know, you don't need to watch this. But it's gonna be setting the context, setting the tone for how this conversation is gonna go. But we're mainly gonna be looking how Hamzah is conducting an interview. How does a young person like interview someone who has a lot more life experience and who ran for, you know, the president, you know, even if it's not one of the more serious candidates, you know, uh, or the top candidates, it's still someone who, you know, has a lot of energy behind them in politics. How is he managing that? How is a young, you know, 20-year-old kid managing an interview with this person?
Dimension of our lives, and including the genocide that we're seeing, you know, bloody our screens, you know, every day, every hour. And it's just a real kind of breaking point moment. it's a time of incredible personal and social and political change.
100%, 100%. And you know, seriously, thank you so much for all you do. I mean, you know, what you're doing is really, is truly amazing. I think so. Just a basic opening question for those watching who are unfamiliar with who you are. But can you please give a quick rundown of who you are and what the Green Party is?
Sure. So I describe myself as a mother on fire, working to make the world safe for children, all children. I was trained and practiced professionally as a medical doctor for about 25 years. And very early on in that process, I really saw that, you know, our health as individuals and as society isn't created in the doctor's office. And in fact, once you're sick, there's not a whole lot that happens. I mean, there's very important care, of course, from the doctor's office. But if you really want a cure, you know, an ounce of prevention is worth a ton of cure. So I became involved at the level of communities to try to clean up our air and our water and our, you know, have a healthy food supply and deal with food deserts and poverty, which is like the #4 killer in this country.
Cool. Yeah, we're going to learn more about Jill Stein in the coming weeks because I'm going to be typing her as well. But for today, we're going to be looking even more at Hamzah and how a 20-year-old is managing this interview. What questions is he asking? But yeah, they seem to be aligned on certain issues. And yeah, in this particular set of questions that Hamzah is going to ask in clip #4, he's going to be driving home a particular intuition, a particular idea or imaginative, creative thought. But he's going to want to get Jill's take on it. We're going to listen a little bit to about Jill's response, but we're mainly going to be focusing on how is Hamzah asking the question, and then how is he doing the follow up.
And climate change as well.
Yeah.
The migrant crisis is fixable at its source.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for the insight. I'm really asking this because as a Palestinian, you know, I feel a great deal of solidarity with the Black community here in the U.S. And you're probably familiar with the phrase "no justice, no peace." This was historically used by the Black community in their struggle for liberation. It's a phrase that many other liberation struggles within the U.S. and around the world have adopted. This is what we see with the Palestinian struggle, right? It's an extremely important phrase that you'd hear during protests, you know, and with all of that in mind, what does that phrase mean to you? No justice, no peace.
Yeah. Martin Luther King has a saying about this also, and I'm just paraphrasing it, but it's to the effect that, you know, peace is not just the absence of violence. Peace is a state of justice. So in other words, you know, violence, you know, begets violence.
Yeah.
And if you want to put an end to violence, that is, if you want a system of peace, you've got to address the injustices that are driving it. And, you know, the big myth right now is that the Palestinian struggle, you know, began on October 7th, you know, that on October 7th, suddenly, you know, Hamas, you know, undertook this strike back that came out of nowhere. 100%. We shouldn't have to have.
Yeah, so we're going to be looking at his follow-up right now.
You know, violent ethno-states in order to achieve security. Violent ethno-states is never going to get us to security. We need international law, human rights, and, you know, and peace and justice for everyone in order to achieve that peace and security.
Wow. 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 Thank you so much. I mean, there are many communities in the U.S. who have been persecuted and marginalized throughout history. And that's why we have conflict and tension. You know, it's all about the root causes of injustice. And when we say no justice, no peace, we're not saying we don't want peace. We're saying that justice is a precondition for peace. And you can't have peace without addressing the injustices, right?
Exactly.
So basically what we're saying is this whole no justice, no peace. It's the way Hamzah is dealing with it is more, at least in my opinion, it's more of this NI or intuitive conceptual interpretation of that phrase. And then with Jill Stein, I think she has probably a different observer function. She's possibly on the NESI axis, maybe. And so when she's looking at a meaningful phrase and she's breaking it down and going deeper in the observations, she's more so looking at the SI, meaning where did the things actually begin? Where did these historical events originate from? She's looking at the sensory details as opposed to the intuitive details. Yeah, and then I guess I'll just close this clip with a message at the end, and then we're gonna get into the elimination tool.
Really inspiring to hear how you basically rejected the conditioning of Zionism in Israel. Israel really preys on Jewish youth in the U.S. I mean, they send like IDF soldiers as guests to student orgs at universities. It's really gross stuff. Like you said, just educating people and showing them that the truth will go a long way.
Yeah, and I have to say that when I was growing up, it was right after the Holocaust, and
Yeah.
so it was a huge issue. It was like an existential crisis. Like, how could people allow this to happen? Exactly what's going on in Gaza right now. How can people sit by and allow this to happen? And that was just really drilled into me. I just grew up on that it's not okay to perpetrate genocide. And it's not okay to be a bystander to genocide.
Yeah.
Neither one is okay. And I just that's how we came to terms with the genocide. That's how we could go on.
Yep. So more from her in a couple weeks. But yeah, I think we got enough to go on with Hamzah. And yeah, here's the elimination tool. Yeah, so my guess is probably around intuition. Yeah, I might not have updated the titles, but I'm seeing an intuitive observer, some kind of IJ or EP at this point. That's one of the first narrow downs, is that he seems to be going in the self above tribe direction, even though he does come off a bit extroverted. He has his own opinions, he has his own direction. You could see even with his interviewing style, he has his own opinions that he does put out there, and he's not really moving from that. And he's willing to listen to others, and that's kind of the vibe that self above tribe people give, is that they have their own opinions and they're listening, but they're not really exactly leaning so far forward into listening, you know? Yeah. And so narrowing down further for me, yeah, the title isn't updated, but yeah, I was seeing both NI and TI. Like it's OI and DI. Like he has his way of doing things. He has his pathway that he's stuck on. He has his chosen plan, his conclusion. He's trying to make it fit. And I've watched a lot more videos to make sure that this is the case with him. But it's something, it's something I'm seeing where, he's looking into the meaning of things in a deeper way. At least that's my guess at this time. Again, I don't claim to have a lot of accuracy, but in terms of, I think this is the general ballpark. And zooming out a little bit, this is one of the guesses that I also have. If he's not NITI, he might be NETI. So that's another alternate guess. But what I am seeing is extroverted, right? So he's some kind of extroverted NT, nerdy type, comfortable to talk about politics, observer. He's super double decider. He's going back and forth with the tribe. He's going back and forth with I'm good or I suck, And yeah, so that's what I'm seeing. And he's comfortable debating. He's, on his actual channel, he debates people and he brings up arguments, brings up history. So what I'm specifically seeing, just so I can talk a bit more about that, my final guess is in the direction of NITI. But before I do that, I do have a slide on thank you to Lily, who also submitted a guess for this person. She's a fellow ESFP. And yeah, thanks. And I think she's going to be doing a video, so I'll be linking that in the description. But she saw that I was doing Hamzah in a couple weeks, and that couple weeks is now. And yeah, she has a guest for Hamzah, and yeah, she can talk about that in her video, which I'm going to be linking. Yeah. But it's really good. I hope more people get involved with the typing process. I think typing more people is going to be good for the community. I think this is going to be a great project for people to join in on. And yeah, we'll see where it goes from here. But yeah, in 2 weeks, we're going to be typing Jill Stein. But yeah, join in. So the last, so either way, it's some kind of extroverted NT observer with BI is what I'm trying to say here. And my last consideration is between sleep blast consume versus sleep blast play. I showed you the lookalike game. I do think it also looks alike with the NETI version, so that's good. And one thing I put here is MF, but it's also entirely possible for Hamzah to be double feminine, FF. The sexual modalities are not something I'm particularly good at. So yeah, it could very well be double feminine. So my final guess is MFNITI Sleep Blast Play Consume number 2, which is the same type I got for Zoran. So yeah, there might be a difference there. It could be Enneagram, it could be maybe Hamzah is actually double feminine or something like this. Yeah. So basically what we're seeing here is consume last, the ST consume last, but it's double masculine possibly. And the reason for this is like he is digging into the history books. And when someone is forced to do their last animal, they kind of have a lot of energy behind them. And so if he is consumed last, or, even if he were sleep last, he's getting to the ST and he's not able to do a lot of ST work. But when he does it, he makes it count. And it's very specific to the thing that he's really, really interested in. And so that's a comment or a commentary on anyone doing their last animal or the things that they're weak at, is that you can kind of perform really well in your weakness in specific areas. And that's something I'm taking away from all this, is that you really can do um, your last animal pretty well, because he has his facts together, at least a collection of them. And yeah, that's pretty cool. And it's really rare to see, a young person be this eloquent, this well spoken, and handling that much negativity. I think, being very popular, that's why I kind of put him in the extrovert realm, because introverts are not going to deal with as much drama as he's putting up with. He's talking to like thousands of people, hundreds of people, every month. And that's just, that's a lot of pressure. I think it's a lot of pressure to put on a young person. And that's why we have our more extroverted people. So anyway, that was Hamzah. I hope you enjoyed that. It was kind of a lot of pressure, but I think that's kind of how it is with these topics. But I'm going to keep it going, because in 2 weeks, we're going to be typing Jill Stein. So Jill Stein ran for president, a while ago, and people may have thought it was a joke or something, but it's not. And it's something that, you know, activists take this kind of thing very seriously. There are reasons why people do things. And it's just a good opportunity to type these people because, they're trying to do something significant. They're putting a lot of energy. Just because something isn't popular doesn't mean it's not meaningful, doesn't mean it's not correct, because the mainstream people or the mainstream ideas are generally out of band with, the truth. That's what I'm seeing these days, is the people on the fringes end up being a little bit more correct than what is generally allowed to talk about. Um, yeah. So, and then in 4 weeks, we're going to be doing Cornel West, who also ran for president. So it'll be a good 4 week cycle, because I don't know why we don't have those people typed yet, but I'm going to be going for it. So please join in if you want to type these people. And thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Hope to see you again in the next video.